Okay, Eric, this is called the green screen game,
Okay.
and we are going to project behind you
Mm-hmm.
a Broadway show,
Oh my gosh.
and you have to guess what it is. So,
Okay.
what is it?
What is it? Oh, Phantom of the Opera.
No, I'm sorry. It was Sweeney Todd.
Oh, I thought.
Thanks for playing.
The one that
But
I've been
you know
talking
what?
about.
As a consolation, you still get a Stages of Minnesota button.
Thank you.
Cherish that.
Should have been.
Okay, Laura,
Yes.
behind you is projected a Broadway show.
Okay.
What is it?
Wicked.
You were so close. It is The Wiz.
No! Oh, I was really close. Wow.
You know,
The same vein.
you get a
Same
button
general
too.
story. Yes! Pride's possession right here. Thank you.
Yep.
Wow.
All right. So we're playing a game. Behind us, what you see right now, what do you see?
Green.
So we will be putting a picture behind Jill, and she has to guess what Broadway show we have projected behind her. So, Jill, are you ready?
I'm ready. Fiddler on the Roof.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Nice try. Nice try. Next. I'm here with Erica, and we're playing a game where we are going to project behind you a Broadway show. And the clue for you is Maria Bartholdi and Kristen Stuhl created a stop-motion version of this with their Playmobil people when they were kids.
Sound of Music.
Sorry. Next. Okay, Kendra. So behind you, we are projecting a Broadway show, which you cannot see. You just see a green screen. And you have to guess what the title of that Broadway show is. And I'm going to give you a clue. There's a film of this show that I hate. Not that it's terrible, but I could imagine it in my head, and I wanted it to be that, and it isn't. It's very disappointing for me.
Is it Cats?
No, it is not. Jill, would you like to guess? It is Rent. Alex, this is my son. He is helping film today, and behind you, you just see what?
That's green.
What color is it?
Green. Twice.
And so, what Broadway show am I thinking of?
Phantom of the Opera. Is that a
He
Broadway?
got it right.
I knew it. I knew I was going to get that right, too.
Words said in the aftermath are just too confusing. Now I spend my days watching you throw stones at someone who's already dead. And if this is the way we all began, so how can I ask for any more?
Welcome to a very nostalgic episode of the Stages of Minnesota and Son. I'm joined today by the Stages of Minnesota Junior, my son, Alex Dunkelberger. Alexander for long. On Sunday, November 23rd, Alex and I embarked on a trip down memory lane. We took in 2 shows, and in doing so, revisited 2 cultural touchstones from his childhood. First up was R.L. Stine's Goosebumps, Phantom of the Auditorium, at Park Square Theater, followed by the new North American tour of Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Phantom of the Opera. I, for one, had a fantastic time. If you do the captions on this, make sure to spell fantastic with a PH. We thought it would be interesting and possibly entice his grandparents to finally watch an episode if we chatted about our experience with these 2 shows. Those of you who stay around and read the fine print at the end of the episodes are probably aware that Alex helps out behind the camera quite a bit. Alex, first of all, welcome to the world in front of the camera. Everything's a little bit brighter out here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because the lights are shining at us and so away from us. Parents, always take a moment like this to educate your children on something. So let's start with Goosebumps. What is your relationship with these books, and where were you on the night of September 18th, 2010?
Can't answer the second one. No idea. As far as Goosebumps go, just remember loving the books when I was a kid. Mostly, collecting them and organizing the covers, and then making you guys rebuy the book so I could get the updated covers.
Yes, I remember that.
Reading a couple, but once after we saw the show, I remember coming out and just looking up Goosebumps and just having kind of like a flood of nostalgia, looking at all the old covers, kind of brought back nothing specific, but just kind of a sense of memory I kind of felt like I hadn't felt since I was at that age, like collecting those. And
Right.
it's weird how that'll happen. I didn't expect to have kind of a back-to-back kind of nostalgic experience, both with Phantom and Goosebumps. It's weird how these things kind of live in your memory, and it just takes this kind of like just a little bit of suggestion or just seeing the right thing to really bring back a lot of stuff you haven't thought about in decades.
When I first saw that they were doing Goosebumps, Phantom of the Auditorium at Park Square, and I told you about it, I said, "Oh, do you want to go?" You're like, "I'm good." Figured out that we could do a double feature where we could do Goosebumps, Phantom of the Auditorium with Phantom of the Opera, both of them being things that were iconic or important in your childhood.
Formative even.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then you reluctantly sort of said, yeah, okay, I'll do that double feature. Now that you've seen Goosebumps, Phantom of the Auditorium, how do you feel about the experience?
Yeah, definitely enjoyed it. Enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would.
My expectations going into Goosebumps were sort of like, okay, this is sort of a kid show. Tone down your expectations.
It still very much is a kid show.
It very much is. It very much is. But it's one of those shows that I think is a nice gateway for maybe kids who don't go to the theater, haven't been exposed to the theater very much, because it's geared towards them, the story. But the story is really tight. There's not a lot of fat on this. And the performances are all just top notch.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting maybe that there were going to be a lot of student actors from maybe high schools, but no, this is people in the cast are, perform at the Guthrie, perform at Park Square. And also the production design, the effects, they use the fog and the mist and all of that to pretty good effect, I thought. And the set was, at first you think, oh, there's going to be maybe a little scaffolding there and a little bench thing that they'll use for various things. But then at some point it opens up and you're in the Phantom's lair, or what you think is Phantom's lair. Mm-hmm. And that whole set was really impressive, I thought.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, my expectations were certainly surpassed. Yeah, like you said, especially for ostensibly a children's production. It took me off guard how well executed, how on point everything was. Especially a lot of the performances. I thought pretty much the entire cast was really excellent. The comic relief character, genuinely got laughs out of you, Yeah. There was definitely a level of gravitas to the Phantom character's performance that I wasn't expecting. He seemed like a really, just generally excellent actor. So, especially, in contrast to, Phantom of the Opera, obviously iconic, massive, there's so many great things to recommend it. But they're also, with this particular production, there felt like there were things that, weren't quite tightened all the way or could have been adjusted, which is not something I'd really say for the Goosebumps one. So it was an interest seeing that earlier in the day and seeing something really tight, much less expectation on it, really execute what it's doing kind of perfectly.
Right.
And then seeing later in the day Phantom of the Opera, which much higher expectations, still great, still wonderful. But in some ways, Goosebumps was the better executed of the two. So it was interesting seeing a really low budget, kind of smaller production do something really on point perfectly, and then seeing a really iconic, massive, larger production hit most of those, but not all of them.
Sure.
If you were to compare things to scale, you might say that Goosebumps was the better executed show, although it's going up against a titan of musical theater.
And when you say low budget, we're not trying to imply that there are painted flats and that look like they might fall over.
No, not at all. Yeah.
It's clearly not millions of dollars.
Yeah.
in production design like you get with Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, totally.
The thing I really appreciated about Goosebumps, and this was, I think, always true of the books as well, that there's a sense, particularly in my generation, of, okay, a kid's horror theme thing, it's going to be Scooby-Doo, it's going to end up being, well, there wasn't really a ghost or a phantom or a monster. But Goosebumps always, it went there. It said, there really is a monster. There really are things. People really are in peril.
Yeah.
This had, okay, there is a phantom in this.
Yeah.
There is a nice supernatural element to it. And it actually has, pulls at your heartstrings a little bit when it comes down to it, because there's a reason why that phantom is still, that ghost or whatever is still in the auditorium.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. It's a masterpiece.
Well, it's not that, but again, the songs are good. There isn't any that I can now remember and hum. Also, they were eclipsed by then going to see Phantom of the Opera, where that music, both of us know it by heart. Those get in our heads, and we're humming those for days afterwards. But that said, a lot of times I've been to musicals that are like at Stages Theater Company in Hopkins, or Old Log we used to go to when you were a kid, the children's productions, and like there's songs here, but they're really basic.
Yeah.
They're good. They're definitely above, once again, my expectation level was here.
Yeah.
And what I got was here.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people who are maybe looking to skip that one, you could go and have fun with this.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's still primarily a kid show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not a kid show, more like a
it's
teen show.
Younger teen show,
Yep.
younger teen and up. Particularly if you have a connection to the source material as a kid. I'm not sure I'd recommend it to people outside of that. Personally, you know.
I think you have to have either you gravitate towards like spooky stuff, and so any of that is kind of fun for you.
Yeah.
Or your kids were into it, so you were exposed to it, or you were exposed to it as a kid, because books have been around for, I think, 30 plus years at this point.
Yeah, I think it was like the late 90s.
It was somewhere in the 90s. To go to the bookstore, you get to pick out 2 books or whatever. And it would always be Goosebumps.
Yeah.
And there were times where you're like, I have an older cover and everything else in my collection is this kind of slightly redesigned cover. So you would choose a book you already owned so that you could replace the cover. Let's move on to the other Phantom in the room. Phantom of the Opera was the first show that you saw, like Broadway touring show. You were around 5 years old, and we'll put up an embarrassing photo of you in the costume you wore to attend the show. I remember very clearly I took half a day off of work because you went to a matinee during the week. I met you and your mom at the Orpheum Theater, and you came down on the bus. Were there with your black suit, a cape on, your phantom mask. The looks you got, like everybody was like, oh, look at that, just so adorable. And we went in and we saw it, and at some point, and I feel like it was in the first act, there was a loud bang, and I had to take you out.
Yeah.
What are your memories of Phantom of the Opera from your childhood?
I do have like a very vague memory, not so much as the show, but of being in the lobby. I think I remember being in the lobby after the gunshot or whatever loud noise went off. Although it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not sure if it was a memory I have or one that I've just heard so many times, you kind of create a false memory of it. I don't know, I guess my question is, how did you get me into the Phantom of the Opera, the musical, before being able to go see it at the Orpheum?
You were just into monsters, very much into monsters, and classical music. I was a huge fan of Phantom of the Opera. I first saw it in LA with Michael Crawford, the original Phantom, and it blew me away. I was in high school, and that was probably the first big show I ever saw as well, and I was in high school when I saw it. I always had the soundtracks, and I would listen to it and stuff, and when you were interested in monsters, I probably introduced you to it that way. And then I think you just listened to my CDs.
Yeah.
Probably quite a bit.
It does tie into like that early love of like old monster movies and stuff like that. And although it is kind of an interesting segue to be into that and then go into, it is sort of monster adjacent, but when you see it as an adult, it's not really horror. You know, I can only imagine my primary interest in child was still, there's a phantom.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's just interesting how easily that translated into a love for that musical.
Yeah.
And the music of it.
Generally, your memory, because we talked about this, you could hum it almost all the way through this show. You don't have a clear memory of actually seeing the stage show.
Yeah.
You have a vague memory of the movie. So most of it probably comes from listening to the soundtrack enough as a small child that 20 years later,
Yeah, I was going to say.
you probably have not listened to it in a decade or more.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 decades.
Yeah, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
It's weird how that just lives in your memory and it's just way back there. And then you have something that triggers it and it just brings it all to the forefront. It was the same thing with the Goosebumps thing. Not the musical, the play musical itself, but, you know, afterwards looking at the covers and just like having this like, oh, right, that's like, not only is that back there, like in my memory, but there's something about it that has, without thinking about it whatsoever, just carried through. Like it felt uncannily familiar looking at them again.
Sure. So what was your reaction to seeing Phantom of the Opera?
I liked it a lot. I don't think it's perfect. I think there are definitely things that just, you know, could have been adjusted or like weren't to my taste or maybe weren't quite up to standard. Overall, though, I mean, it's Phantom of the Opera. It's pretty good, you know, and the music alone just kind of carries the entire thing, you know.
Right.
You could kind of just listen to the soundtrack and have a great experience.
Yeah.
I really liked a lot of the set design. Not all of it worked for me. There were a few things that felt just a little, just not quite on the mark, even sometimes hokey, like when the Phantom is taking her down into the thing in the rotating staircase. Felt a little mechanical, maybe, just even a little gimmicky. But they're kind of small complaints. Overall, it was a really good show. And more than that, I mean, it's hard to parse exactly what has to do with this particular production generally and what has to do with my own personal connection to it and how much I'm projecting onto it and how much I already enjoy it and how much I'm enjoying the experience of seeing this after 20 years.
Right.
And just having that kind of relationship to it. So in some ways, I'm biased for it.
It is very much just ingrained to me that I love this. Now, there are people who love Phantom of the Opera, which is, I would say, a lot of the mainstream public loves Phantom of the Opera. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people who, oh God, Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
You know, look down their nose at it.
I looked up some ranking of like Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals or just productions, and like Phantom was frequently not towards the top. And I think there is still like, which just happens in like any kind of art media circle. Whatever's the most popular will eventually, you know,
get the most eye rolls.
Yeah, and have the most detractors.
Yeah.
Partly maybe because some people want to be contrarian. Partly because it does just get overplayed, and when you're that inundated with something, it can start to like wear on you, and you start seeing the flaws in it.
Right.
But
right. I don't think anymore that a lot of that is that, oh, it's cool not to like it. It's just like people's tastes are different.
Yeah. Maybe.
For those who maybe haven't seen it, don't know it, and are wondering, should I go see this? If you like musicals, I think you're going to love Phantom of the Opera because it is a very good, a very accessible. It has a lot of great melodies, and it's a story we're all familiar with. It's very Beauty and the Beast.
It's probably a must-see. I mean, if you're into musical theater and you haven't seen a production of this.
I mean, there's a reason that it's longest-running show on Broadway.
I think I heard that, yeah.
It is so popular. People do love it.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the cast?
Good, mostly. I don't know, there are a few that didn't quite feel right. Gotta say, wasn't a big fan of the Phantom. I think I will say there are a few moments that felt a little mischaracterized, or maybe didn't have the gravitas I was looking for, or even the sense of menace. But on the flip side of that, I think probably the most powerful moment in the show did come from his final song. I felt like there was a moment right at the end, even just like in the last section of that song, where everything about the production really clicked into the place that most had the entire night. Just the aesthetics of the stage, and the performance, and the singing, the music, it just kind of all was able to pull the essence out of the show and really, put it forefront and really kind of hit that note perfectly.
Everybody else was really good. And the Phantom wasn't bad, but it's just not hitting it for me. The second act, I felt like he worked a lot better for me. The Phantom is played by Isaiah Bailey. Christine Daae was Jordan Lee Gilbert, and I thought she was fantastic.
Yeah, she was excellent, yeah.
Playing Raul was Daniel Lopez. You were fine with him, right?
Yeah, I liked him.
I thought he had a great voice. He was smiling too much. Like he was performing.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're doing a show. We're putting on a show, being on,
I guess
instead of being in the role.
I feel that way about most productions. I don't know, and I guess this hadn't occurred to me, and maybe I'm wrong just because of my perception of this production, but they're also not the meatiest roles in the world either. Aside from the Phantom's a pretty dynamic character, but the rest of the characters, and it's not really a problem or anything, but they're not the most, necessarily fleshed out.
Sort of an iconic storyline, and it doesn't deviate from that. So when you break it down, the story is fairly simplistic.
That's the other thing that surprised me about it, is how kind of slight the whole thing is. Which, again, not to dig at it at all, but there's not really a ton to it.
Slight story-wise, not production value.
Not production value-wise. I think the strengths of the entire enterprise throughout its entire production history are the music and the iconography.
Yeah.
The visuals are very evocative and beautiful. The music is obviously heightens that a ton and is the main thing of it. But it's not, it's not Shakespeare.
In terms of the production design, there is some stage magic, some fun stuff with mist and effects and things like that. But it's also even in the quieter moments in the theater manager's office and things. Just the use of drapery, of curtains and things like that. It just, even when it opens up, look in the background of behind all the pieces that are layered in front for us. It just, there's this sense of depth out there that was really impressive.
Yeah. And, it's hard not to pick that kind of epoch in history and not, have something very decadent and beautiful and just lush, It very much helps the time period set in.
Yeah.
And it makes most of the different stages and locations just really gorgeous, even it's one scene with the rooftop, just beautiful.
Yeah.
Although it's always interesting, how much of that is these images having such an impression on me as a child, so I have this sensibility for it, and I have this kind of orientation towards it.
Right.
Because it got me at the right age, and how much of it, I think it just is just beautiful, but how much of, if you grew up with totally different influences and came into this show, how much would you be pulled in by just the aesthetic of it?
Right.
How much of my relationship to it is based on nostalgia, through kind of the aesthetics of it and just the iconography of it. How much of am I just identifying purely with that? Which is, why I said, I'm biased in favor of it.
Right.
To a certain degree.
Right.
But then, it's also one of the most best-selling shows ever on Broadway. So, yeah, I'm not the only one.
Well, did you enjoy this journey into the past?
I did.
Hope so.
Very much so.
Good.
Very much so.
R.L. Stine's Goosebumps, Phantom of the Auditorium, runs through December 14th at Park Square Theater. If you shrug this one off, you might want to take another look. Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera will complete its run at Hennepin Arts Orpheum Theater on December 7th. We'll link to both of those theaters in the show notes so you can purchase tickets. Well, Alex, thanks for joining me on the episode. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did.
Begins to grow,
and then before you even know it, you've got goosebumps, goosebumps. You're covered head to toe in goosebumps,
and yet you feel a strange delight. Ha 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 ha!
So follow if you dare,
but all who do beware,
for you may find a scare that fills your soul with pride.
Phantom of the opera is there inside your mind.
Wishing you were somehow sponsoring an episode of the Stages of Minnesota? You can. Reach out to me via email at robdunkelberger@thestagesofmn.com. Have questions, comments, hearing strange voices coming from behind your mirror? Feel free to email me with that as well. We are always accepting new members in the Stages of Minnesota Plus One Club. Send me an email with your name and mobile number. When I have a Plus One ticket available, I'll text the Plus One Club members, and if you can make it, text me back directly. Please, no replies to group texts. There's nothing more terrifying than getting a bunch of replies to a group text that you don't need to see. The first person to reply gets to see a free show with me. Remember, if you see me out at a show or anywhere, don't hide behind a mask. Say hi. Let's get a photo together and put you on the Stages of Minnesota. A huge thanks to my offspring, Alex, for agreeing to revisit the past and take in a Phantom double feature with me. And even more so for agreeing to come out of the shadows and discuss it with me on the show today. Thanks as always to Ryan Lee for the generous use of his music. Every note of music used on the Stages of Minnesota comes from his albums, which you can find at ryanlee.bandcamp.com. Whether you're watching the YouTube edition or listening to the podcast version, don't forget we all sound better in the shower. If you enjoyed this episode, please help spread the word. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and review the show. As Carol Jackson said to me when we last parted, think of me fondly when we've said goodbye. Remember me once in a while, please promise me you'll try. And of course she urged me to go see a show.
'Cause it's all over but the shouting. Every soul needs light. My mind's been wasting away in the afternoon shade, out of sight. And I am not the pure and perfect one, but my branches are still bent toward the sun.